Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be making the Moondance Notebook Holder. This is a project that is meant to be made out of vinyl, cork, leather, any other non-fraying materials, and it will hold a standard junior legal pad, or there's an option for another size that will fit an A5 top-bound notepad. So this doesn't take a lot of material, and it's actually a really quick project. You can use leather edge paint with it if you choose to, or you can leave the edges raw. That's your choice. It has a slot to slip in the notebook, and then there's a spot for business cards, and then like a little folder. You could add like an elastic here for a loop to put your pen in. And you could also add elastic in the seam here that you could then stretch over the whole notebook to hold it closed. I do find that it stays closed on its own without anything, and this is how it looks with the notepad inside. This one is made out of leather. This one is made out of vinyl. So let's get started. First we'll go over the pieces. You will have cut from the vinyl, you'll have one exterior, two lining main. You can cut this all from the same fabric or same vinyl or different vinyls, whatever you choose. We have one lining center. We have one angled pocket. So you want to make sure that you put the pattern piece for this on the right side of your vinyl or leather to make sure that it's angled the right direction. We have one card pocket, and then from the Decoville Heavy we have two main stabilizer pieces, and we have one notepad stabilizer. So not many pieces. Start out, you'll just cut everything, and then in the directions it shows you where to fuse. So first we will fuse the main stabilizer pieces on the wrong side of the exterior, and they will be 1/4 of an inch from the top and bottom, and then 1/4 inch from each side. So it should be like this, and you have 1 inch, a 1 inch gap in between. I'm going to fuse that. Okay, both pieces of stabilizer are fused in place. Always test your vinyl from the wrong side on a scrap to make sure that it can withstand the heat of the iron. If it can't, then you can go ahead and glue these pieces in place. So the next step is to take the lining center, and we're going to use double-sided tape. I get this 1/8 inch double-sided tape from Wizardry Stitchery, which I will link in the description. And I really like this 1/8 inch wide tape. It works really well. Well, I've been using it for everything, but it works really well for installing zippers in interior pockets of bags, because it's narrow enough that it stays in the seam allowance and you don't have any of the tape sticking out. But I'm using it for this also because I just like it. And I think they call it Wizardry Stickery. I also want to mention that the vinyl I'm using is from Bodio. If you haven't checked them out before, definitely do, because they have a lot of like faux leather type vinyls, more leather looking, and their prices are very reasonable. So I'm just going to remove the paper backing from the adhesive. This project also does not involve really a ton of sewing. We want to center this over the gap, and I just kind of eyeball it. It does not have to be perfect, but you do want it to be lined up nicely at the top and bottom, so that the edges seamlessly line up. All right, I'll just stick that in place. Now we're going to set that aside, and we're going to move on to one of the lining mains. We want to measure on the back 3/4 of an inch down from the top. So if your vinyl is directional, make sure that you're measuring from the top. Mine is not, and this pen is not going to write on this, but I can see my mark well enough. So what I'm going to do is place the notepad stabilizer piece of Decoville Heavy just below that 3/4 inch line, and I'm going to fuse that in place. All right, now we want to measure 1.5 inches down from the top on the right side, and we're going to make a mark. You can mark the whole line, or did I say 1.25? 1.5 inches down from the top. And we're going to mark one dot that is 1/4 inch in. This is a bad angle for me. From each edge. So if you've ever sewn with a camera above your head, then you can relate. But it's very difficult to keep your head out of the way for certain parts that would be easier to be directly above what you're doing. So I'm just making one dot 1/4 inch in from each side and 1.5 inches down from the top. Okay, so once I've marked that dot, I'm going to use my leather hole punch. This is optional. You can also mark the whole entire line and just cut a straight line. I like the look of the cut line having like the little holes at the end, and I feel like it helps it to not like continue splitting or anything, so that it doesn't rip. Alright, then we want to use our roller and a rotary cutter, or you can use scissors for this, and cut from one dot to the other 1.5 inches from the top. And I'm sorry if you get to see a shot of the top of my head here. And you're cutting all the way through the vinyl and the Decoville light, or Decoville Heavy, I'm sorry. Okay. So once that's cut, you could stitch beneath this if you wanted to for a little extra stability. I don't find that is really necessary, but definitely an option. All right, now you can use either sewing clips or double-sided tape to hold this in place. I'm just going to continue to tape everything. I really like how well the tape holds it in place for me to sew. Less chance of mistakes that way. The snips that I'm using today are from moremeknow.com. I do not believe she has this specific pattern in stock, but she does have other snips, and they're all the same base, just with different different prints on the handles. Alright, so I'm just going to remove the backing from my tape, if I can. So I think this is maybe the vinyl that it doesn't want to stick to, because I haven't had this happen where I couldn't pull the backing off. Okay, I got that one. The back of this vinyl is very, feels like microfiber. Oh no. Yes, this is definitely not representative of the tape. This is because of the type of backing on this vinyl. It's having no problem sticking to my hands. Or the snips. Alright, so we want to, if your vinyl is directional, make sure that you have the right side up and the cut side is facing up as well. Alright, and then we're just going to stick it down nicely with that adhesive. And when you get done, if any of your edges don't line up exactly, you can trim. So, which I would do with a rotary cutter, so that it's nice and precise. Okay, we're going to set that aside. Now we're going to move on to the angled pocket and the card pocket. So we're going to use our tape on the back of the card pocket. And every single one of these steps that I'm using tape for, you could use sewing clips instead. So here are the clips I use. These are from warmyknow.com, and they could just as easily hold things in place. Actually, probably easier, and it would keep your cost down. But I just really like taping it. Alright, so this part does not have to be very precise. You want to place the card pocket a 1/4 inch from the left side and a 1/4 inch up from the bottom. So I'm just going to eyeball it, but most importantly, you just want to make sure that this is even, or that you like the placement of it. Now we're just going to sew the card slot in place using a 1/8 inch seam allowance, or I'm sorry, the card pocket from this side across the bottom and up the other side. And you can definitely make this on a domestic sewing machine. The thread that I'm using is Tech 70 thread from Saya Swag Bags. I think it is bonded polyester thread. Okay, so once that's sewn in place, and I made sure to back stitch at the start and stop, now we are going to take the other lining main, and this will be lined up a 1/4 inch from the bottom and the left sides as well. So I'm just going to place tape along those sides. So all the way down the long side. I'm guessing somebody that's not me, because I'm like the slowest at I am the slowest sewer. I'm guessing that somebody else would just be able to make this super, super quick. All right. Oh, I forgot that the tape doesn't stick to this so quickly. All right, so we're going to lay that a 1/4 inch from this left side and the bottom. And just stick that down. All right, and then we're going to sew down this side, across the bottom, and then up the other side. It's kind of hard to see with the seam vinyl. And everything in the pattern is sewn at a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Alright, so now that's sewn in place, and I would like to add that you can optionally sew along the raw edge of the angled pocket and along the top edge of the card pocket before sewing them in place if you want, but it's only for visual purposes. It doesn't serve any purpose. Alright, so now we're going to place this side on. And I think I might use clips for this one since the tape is not cooperating. Also, if you're using a thinner vinyl or a vinyl that you don't like the backing of, I suggest fusing a Decovil light to the back of that. And then I would edge stitch just to make sure that that's not going to come away over time. But that's definitely an option. Alright, so once that's clipped in place, we just want to sew all the way around the outer perimeter using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. I usually start in the corner of the back part. The seam guide tape that I have here stuck on my sewing machine is from Sew Full Therapy, and it's really easy to follow whatever seam allowance you need. So I highly recommend that, even if you have seam allowances marked out on your sewing machine. This is still very helpful. Alright, now after sewing all the way around the perimeter, the last step is to sew around the center portion. So we are just going to start, I'm going to start right here. No, I'm not. I'm going to start right here. And I'm just using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. And then when I get to the top, it's also a 1/8 inch seam allowance, but I'll just make sure that I'm sewing directly along my previous line of stitching. again, when you reach the bottom, sew back over the same stitching. Alright, and then you'll just fold in half, and then you can use edge paint on this if you choose to. Let me get a binder or a notebook to put in it. So the notebook should have a cardboard backing, and it should just easily slide right into the notebook slot. And you're finished. And this will stay closed pretty nicely by itself. Yeah, edge paint. Let's talk about edge paint. We're not going to put edge paint on this right now, but I do have some, and I'd like to show that to you. So on this one, I used Giardini. I think I'm saying that wrong. That might be right. I used 2 layers. Nope, not that. I used 2 layers of a base coat. And then I used 1 layer of the Max Edge Basic Edge Paint. And that was enough to give me a pretty decent coverage. I have some drips. This was literally the first time I've ever used edge paint. And the finish is like a rubber almost. I don't know how else to explain it. It's got like a rubbery feel to it. And then on this vinyl, plus that's on real leather, so the edge paint did not soak in. It was different. This one is on vinyl. I also used 2 coats of the Giardini base coat, and then on top of that I used this leather edge paint from Mojo Sews. This one is a glow in the dark, and then she also has well, there's glow in the dark purple, glow in the dark blue, glow in the dark green. You can see the colors really well from the bottom. And then a glow-in-the-dark orange. So any of those colors would have worked perfectly with this. And then there's a metallic blue, metallic silver, a metallic purple, and a metallic green. So I chose to use the glow-in-the-dark purple. And the texture of that, it's thicker. It's thicker than the Giardini. So I found it easier to apply, and it did not run. And I also think, though, that it soaked in a little bit more because it was on vinyl instead of leather. So on this one, I used 2 layers of base coat and then 2 layers of the purple glow-in-the-dark edge paint. But I did find it easier to work with than the Giardini because it did not drip or run on me at all. This one was my first prototype, and I used a waterproof canvas in the center. So what I did there was cut it 1/2 inch longer and then fold each edge under by 1/4 inch. But then you have kind of a weird top here. I didn't really care for that, so I chose to put vinyl or leather on that piece as well. So those are your options. There's some there are tutorials available for edge paint. I don't feel like I'm an expert in that, so I don't think I should be maybe showing people how to do it, since I've literally done only these 2 items. But this is a wonderful project for using edge paint, so I may put some on this as well. But this is just a super quick project, perfect for craft shows. You could slide your business card in here, and these would also make excellent Christmas presents. The whole reason I made it was because I wanted one for myself for work, so this is the one I made myself. And then I thought other people might like that as well. I asked my testers, they were on board, so I wrote the pattern up and here we are. So I hope you'll share your finished Moon Glow binder cover note. Dance. I hope you'll share your finished Moondance Notepad holders in my group. Yeah, let me know what you think, I guess. Leave a comment, give me a follow, like my video, all that stuff. And thank you for watching.